Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach, and for the last week I've been driving the 2025 Audi A6 E-Tron Sportback Quattro. Below me are two electric motors powering this all-electric sedan. Now, I am super excited to be making this video here today because I've spent the last week driving the A6 E-Tron, and I have to say I'm pretty head over heels for this. As a car enthusiast, I will always love burning the good old fossil fuels, but I do think that this E-Tron is a superior vehicle, and I'll tell you why that is throughout the next several minutes. But if you'd like to submit your own vehicle and have it reviewed here on the channel, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. And if you'd like to see all my videos weeks or sometimes months in advance, you can head on over to my Patreon for only $5 a month. But let's get back to that all-electric drivetrain. Well, that is what E-Tron means in the name. They have gone all-electric. This is the dual motor setup, so not only does that mean it is the Quattro all-wheel drive system, but it has two motors for a maximum horsepower of 456 horsepower. Now, in other modes, you'll only get about 422, but if you do max it out, you'll get 456. Now, they do make an S6 Sportback E-Tron that will make 543. However, the 456 is definitely plenty. You can also find this in a rear-wheel drive single-motor variant that will make 375 horsepower and lose about a second 0 to 60, of which this is 4.3 seconds. The EPA also rates this at 333 miles per charge. I've been seeing closer to the 300 mark, which is still very good in my book, and honestly hasn't been a worry. I've only had to charge this vehicle once during my time with it, and I was happily impressed with that. If I could boil this powertrain down to one word, it would be smooth. Another one would be seamless, but then I would be using two words. It's very, very good. For an Audi A6. This isn't the S6, this isn't, the performance, the RS, it's not any of that. This is a semi-normal sedan that a manager would buy, or someone that's a little bit higher up in their company, but they don't really care about blood-pumping, toe-curling adrenaline all the time. This is a fantastic powertrain. It's very smooth, it's very quick, and it does the job better, honestly, than the gas engines. And we'll talk a lot about that with the final thoughts. How does it feel to drive the Audi A6 E-Tron? It is very smooth, it's quick, it's powerful. Like I said, the driving experience has been nothing short of wonderful. Visibility is pretty good, and overall, I just really enjoy it. Every time I was able to get behind the wheel was a joyous occasion. And that can't always be said about these types of cars. The A6 has always been sort of the mundane version of the S6 and RS6 and things like that, the more tame version. And I've had so much fun with this. So that has definitely been very good. The ride is smooth. The suspension is great. Again, I'm rather smitten on this. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have a completely digital gauge cluster. I do like this because it is relatively easy to find everything. It's not overbearing, it's not too crazy to look at, and I really enjoy that. On the steering wheel, on the left, we do have our selectors for that gauge cluster screen, and off to the right, we have our skip track volume, heated steering wheel, as well as voice commands and phone options. Really love the look of the modern Audi steering wheels. They're nice and slim, and they feel very fresh. Off to the left, we do have a little bit of wood accenting with a climate control vent and a cubby down below, but that's it. Nice and clean to the left. Moving out of the door, we do have our latch to get in and out. We have our lock and unlock. Our headlight options found here on the door. Audi's been doing this as of recent in most of their vehicles. Power folding mirrors, memory seats, and our power windows down below. Moving into the center, we get a continuation of that gauge cluster screen. We get our infotainment display. This does have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It does have a great 360 camera, and the climate controls are ran through the screen. This has been a mostly flawless time with it. There was one time I was trying to put the heat up while I was also in reverse, so the backup camera was being displayed, which takes away your climate controls momentarily. But besides that minor annoyance, it's been fine enough. However, I was digging through the settings, and I'll mention why a little bit later on, but I did find driving school mode, which just displays your speed and if you're using your turn signals on the screen. This is very, very strange. Mostly because I don't know who would be using this as a driving school unless you're teaching your kid to drive on your own. Then I guess this is helpful, but you could also see if they're using their turn signals on the giant screen in front of them. You can see it from the passenger seat. So either way, speaking of passenger seats seeing screens, they have their own touchscreen to navigate the media, play games, and things like that. This is definitely very helpful on longer drives. Down below that screen, we do have 2 climate control vents, and then we have 2 USB-Cs and a 12-volt outlet, a wireless charger in a big cubby. And then moving up the center console, we have our start-stop button. Again, I will talk about this later. Drive select for balanced, dynamic comfort and efficiency. Hazard switch, traction control off, and our volume and skip track. Then we have the shifter. I really, really like this slim shifter. A lot of people don't, and that's personal opinion, but I like the fact that it actually opens up the interior a lot more. You don't have a big giant shifter in the way. It just makes the cabin feel a little bit more spacious. We do have our safety feature button as well as our parking camera and parking sensor button. And then we have cup holders off to the right. We'll do a big freaking bottle test. It fails, but most Audis do, so no surprise there. Then we get a center console and the seats. The seats are heated and ventilated, power and memory, and they are very, very comfortable. Something I would expect out of an Audi product, and I get it here in the A6 E-Tron Sportback Quattro. However, speaking of seats, we do have back seats. So let's go do a back seat review. Hey, Savage Geese, my favorite YouTubers. All right, getting in the back of the Audi A6 E-Tron. And, I seem to have left the water bottle on the floor. That is my bad. Getting in here, this is my driving position, and my knees are hitting the seat in front of me. Now, I did drive my mom and dad around. My mom sat in the back, my dad sat in the front, so he was gracious enough to move up for the woman that he's been married to for 30-some years. It's not as spacious as I would want in the back seat. I'm a bigger guy, and I just expect out of a 6 level, A6 should be pretty comfortable. This is pretty on par with the S5 that I drove, which I still wasn't super happy about the back seat of the S5. So this is a little bit of a downside, but this isn't anything to do with it being electric. It's just a downside. You also do get this electromagnetic roof. It has a sunshade that actually you can dim, which is just very weird. I don't know how it works, but it's very cool. And coming down here, we do have 2 climate vents, and we have temperature as well as heated seats. We do get a center console with 2 cup holders in it. We get Bang & Olufsen speakers and climate vents here in the B pillar. So overall, it's a nice back seat. I wish it was a little bit more spacious, especially given the size of vehicle, but beggars can't be choosers. Let's hop into the very back. We'll take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space because this is the Sportback, and then we'll talk about the looks. All right, around the back of the A6 Sportback, and we do have a button in there, and it is a complete lift back. So very, very nice, especially for loading larger objects. Audi's been doing this for quite some time on a lot of their models, and I love to see it returning here for the A6 E-Tron. Once we are back here, plenty of space. I was able to fit all my RC cars back here. You also do get some nice netting and pockets over here for smaller items that might roll around. You do get a 12-volt outlet right in there. Beautiful to see that. And we can lift this up. We get some chargers and things like that, some speakers. Very, very nice to see. This is a ton of space, not only in a sedan or vehicle in this segment, but with the electric motor actually living pretty much right there. This is a great amount of space, given the fact that it has to be compact and fit all of the electric stuff in the same amount of room. Once we do come up here, we can hit it or lock it, as well as if you have the key in the pocket, you can kick under the fender. So we'll come up here and hit the button, and it is power right back down. Very smooth, very quick, and I like to see that a lot. Coming up front, we do have a Frunk. It's a little lever here, and you do get a very minimal amount of space under the hood. However, you can store some things. Probably the plug-in charger is gonna go up here, or maybe like an extra blanket in case it's cold or something like that. You could also fill your washer fluid right here. It's not always a given that EVs even have Frunks, so anytime there is one, I always appreciate it because they didn't really have to do this, but they did. It's a little bit extra storage, and I could see it being useful in a handful of situations, so I like that a lot. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and first of all, I don't overly love the exterior look. However, Audi was very persistent in trying to get the drag coefficient of this vehicle as low as it possibly could while still maintaining the look of an Audi A6. So It is a lot smoother than a regular A6, and it is finished in Malpelo blue. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, Malpelo blue. And I love this color. It's really the only interesting color you could find on the A6 E-Tron. But I had a lady at Target the other day stop me to tell me how pretty of a color the car was. And then she said, "Oh, it looks expensive." And I said, "I hope so." And then I put my foot in my own mouth and realized that was a dumb thing to say. But she like couldn't get over the color, and she was very, very impressed by it. So random strangers were commenting on it, which is always the sign of a good color choice. Overall, I like the exterior. However, the lighting situation in the A6 E-Tron, inside and out, is fantastic. So we'll talk about the outside. You do have these awesome welcome animations when you walk up to the vehicle or unlock the vehicle. I think this is really special. Back in like 2014, I don't like to say I told you so, but back in like 2014, I saw what Audi was doing with headlights, and I said, yeah, that's probably gonna be the future of like cars, is like really cool lighting signatures and having their own like unique light patterns. Audi seems to have taken that idea and ran with it. I am not taking credit. It's just something that I thought of. Interior as well, you get nice ambient lighting. However, there is a giant light bar up on the dash. And not only does this work as your turn signals, which is very cool, but something that the S5 I had last summer didn't have was that when you're charging it, this actually operates as a charge bar. So you'll see towards the end, I was about at 80% while making this video. You can see that last little bit is still loading, which is very, very cool. One more thing about the exterior is the fact that you have two charge doors. Now, on the driver's side, you get standard charging as well as fast charging capabilities, but on the passenger side, you only get level 2 charging ability. The reason for this is that EVs have been out for long enough to where this might be someone's second, third, maybe even fourth EV that they've owned. And with the chargers that keep switching sides, someone might have installed an EV charger on the right side of their garage. And now Audi comes in and moves the charger location. So now they either have to reinstall the charger at home or back in a weird way. No, they take the guesswork out of that. You can still use your older wall chargers on the passenger side, but if you do want that fast charging, it's available on the driver's side, as well as if your charger at home is on the driver's side, then perfect. You also still have that capability. I love that. I personally believe that EVs should have a charger every 6 inches. Not really, but I mean, if you had one at the front, two at the back, one in the front, whatever, like, I love the options. I love having charging options, so I thought that this was a really smart move from Audi, and I've only ever seen this on the 2026 Nissan Leaf. So very, very cutting edge to have 2 different charge ports here in the A6. With all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving the Audi A6 E-Tron Sportback Quattro for the last week? Well, I really, really enjoyed it. This is Audi's new 800-volt architecture. They've been rolling it out in some of their new EV products. It started with the Q6 e-tron and now has moved to the A6 e-tron, and assumingly they're going to put it into more vehicles. It is absolutely fantastic. The only issue I have had with this car all week has been with the power start button, because when you get close to the vehicle, it unlocks. When you get in the car, you have the key in your pocket, it turns on and it goes. But if you get back out, it'll turn off, even if the key is still in the vehicle. So the power button is kind of useless, and I found myself hitting it and turning it off when I wanted it on and hitting it on when I wanted it off. It's a little bit confusing, especially the other morning. I got in, turned the car on, got the heat going and all that stuff, and then I ran back inside and realized that as soon as my butt left the seat, it turned back off, so it wasn't actually heating up at all. Now, you can get a phone app that will preheat the car and all that stuff, but that was just a minor annoyance. Besides that, this car has been absolutely wonderful. I like how modern it is. I like how fresh it is. Everything in here feels brand new, which Audi 2 years ago felt very old. And so they've been redoing almost all of their vehicles, and it really, really shows. These are quality products now that feel like they're from 2025 and not 2016, which is really, really great. When I review cars, and I review a lot of cars, I always try to boil down a manufacturer to one thing that I look for. When I look for a Toyota, I want it to be good value. When I look for a Mazda, I want it to handle well. When I look for a Fiat, I want it to blow up the day after the warranty expires. When I look for a Volvo, I want it to be comfortable. And so when I look for an Audi, what do I want? I want this car to sit on the highway at high speeds very, very comfortably. And that is exactly what the A6 E-Tron does. It sits on the highway so happy, so unbothered, that really truly it is easy to find yourself in trouble. The lack of transmission is a huge benefit in this car. It makes it so incredibly smooth. The power is so direct, the torque is immediate, and this is more powerful than A6s have been in the past. This is a way better automobile than the outgoing A6s. And yes, that price is high, but people who are buying Audi products want a premium experience. They want a premium product, and so price is less of a stipulation for Audi buyers. Someone that is buying an A6, again, is someone who's doing pretty well. They want that premium drive, but they're not all about the RS6 lifestyle. They're not on the Reddit forums and posts and things about, oh, my Audi RS6 Sportback. You know, someone that buys an A6, like, they just want a premium sedan. And so this is a better premium sedan than the gasoline version. It just is. It does the things better. And as long as you're not driving to California every 2 weeks, 300 miles is plenty for around town. Like I said, I don't have a charger at home, and I've only had to charge it once. It charged up in about 35 minutes from 30% to 85%. I literally walked into Meijer, I bought a Formula 1 Hot Wheels, and I walked out, and it was pretty much ready to go. So it wasn't really an issue. And so that's it. They have improved upon the A6 formula. And this is now the second time in my career, only following the Ford F-150 Lightning, where I do thoroughly believe that the electric version is pound for pound better than the gas version. And if I were given the opportunity, would I want the electric A6 or the old gas A6? I would take the electric. I would have this in my garage. And I can't say that about all brands, but Audi is doing something very, very right now. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Audi for letting me borrow their A6 E-Tron Sportback Quattro for the last week. Huge thank you to Drive Shop for facilitating the cleaning and delivery of this vehicle, and of course the Midwest Automotive Media Association. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.